Yo,
Hey, what's going on, dude? How you been?
I'm all right. How are you?
Hanging in there, dude. Thanks for taking the time and just taking a few minutes to chat it up real quick. I appreciate it.
Of course, man. How's audio and all that?
Audio's great. You sound awesome.
It's the
Like,
podcast mixer.
yeah, I was gonna say it's like you know what you're doing.
Yeah, a wee bit.
Professional
I've been
setting.
live like one or two times, maybe.
Yeah. So I definitely want to talk about everything going on with gun gaming, and of course, talk about your podcast that you got going on.
Sure.
So first off, what's actually going on with gun right now? I know times with the pandemic are super slow. Are you guys all working from home right now?
We are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Luckily we're in a situation where we can do what we do from pretty much anywhere. Don't get me wrong. It's better to be in the same place, but
Now, how do you feel about the industry of gaming during the pandemic? Do you think it's been good for the industry? I mean, more kids are home, people are home in general. Do you see a benefit in the gaming industry from it?
well, I mean, like you said, people are home, right?
Yeah,
So of course, everybody's going to be spending time at home playing video games. There's going to be, a lot more people trying to kill some time.
yeah,
So, in that respect, yeah, it's been good.
yeah,
But then there's the hurdles of development, you know what I mean? That kind of go along with being stuck home. So like, as much as everybody's stuck home and that's making them play more games, it's a little bit more difficult for us to get the content and things done.
yeah. I mean, we're dealing with the same thing in the radio industry because in the office or in the studio, it's the on-air personality, and then people like engineers.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really have a collective group to really brainstorm ideas. And, we could do these Zoom calls and all that. And it's great because it's a way to, fill people in, get an idea of where people are. But it doesn't really, it's not the same as being face to face. And I don't know if you guys feel the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with everybody being in the office, especially in a creative industry, not unlike what you guys, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Being able to kick ideas around, being able to talk with your coworkers, that kind of stuff. It's just not the same with Slack and Zoom and shit like that.
Yeah.
You know,
Now, with games, the two games that I think that come to
I should probably
mind.
watch my mouth, right?
No, you're good because this is just
Okay.
recorded, and then I can do all the editing and all that. So,
All right. Thank God.
no worries. So the two games that I think of when I talk about Gun, which you just told me was changed from Gun Media to Gun Interactive,
Yeah.
are Layers of Fear 2, which is one of your most recent games, and the game that my wife can't stand because I'm always playing is
Oh.
Friday the 13th.
Right. Right.
Ever since Friday the 13th came out on PS4 for free, I think it was like 2 years ago,
Yep.
I can't put it down. I don't know why. It's a very simple game, but it's highly addictive in a very weird way. And I don't know, maybe it's because of the simplicity of the game. But do you find like a lot of like the diehard fans loving it because, it's pretty simple to pick up?
Yeah. You know what it is? I'm a firm believer too. And I wouldn't want to speak for Wes and the gang, but I am a firm believer that, if you're going to do a thing, you just, pick the thing, pick the core of what you've got, the core of the game, and make sure you do it well.
Yeah.
You see that all over gaming right now. Games like even, recently Fall Guys.
I
Pick a
suck
thing.
at that game, dude. I
Yeah.
suck at it.
But I mean, again, it's a matter of picking a thing and making sure that if that's what your game is based around, making sure that you do that well. And I think that for Ronnie and Wes in the original early days of, the creative side of Friday, the goal was they wanted to build the game around those interactions with Jason. They wanted it to be, a situation where you're living in a horror movie. And so that was like kind of the nugget that they focused on, making sure that side of things was fun and engaging and created those moments that are like no other in gaming. Okay, cool. And then the rest of it you can layer around it. And how far you go from there is, really kind of a matter of what the actual brand calls for. But ultimately, knowing that center, that core item is the fun part, and knowing how to refine that is something that some people are either good at or they're not. And, Wes and Ronnie, they happen to be really good at boiling the game down to those loops that everybody enjoys. Those core little loops that everybody enjoys.
Yeah. And what I love about Friday is it's a game that, you could pick up with your friends. Let's say you have like 8 PS4 friends or Xbox friends. You could join a lobby, or you could just jump into a public lobby.
Right.
And that's what's fun about it. But, I've been playing it for so long now that I find myself to be really good at the game. I'm not the best at the game. I'm not the worst at the game. But, when I'm playing it, I play to win. Now, how do you feel about competitive gaming? Do you think it's healthy for people? Do you think, gaming should just be strictly all about having fun?
Well, not to cut you off, I apologize, but, it's one of those things where again, things I'm a firm believer in, it's not up to you what the game is once it's out in the wild. You do your best work to try to define the game and design the game a specific way, but ultimately what the community does with it once it's out in the wild is on them. It's up to them. And you can't hand 2 people controllers and say, now you're going to be playing against each other, but it's not competitive in any way, because it's going to be. I mean, I don't know if you grew up with siblings, but everything that is, everything that's one-to-one is competitive. You know what I mean? Like, now, I think that there's one of the interesting things to me about Friday is I personally love private matches with friends. I like getting in with just a group of my buddies and just goofing around, having a good time, scaring the crap out of each other, that kind of thing. But there's a significant amount of the community that takes it very seriously, takes it very, competitively. I think that, when you really score something with a game is when you can do both, when you can have, a fun side where people can just hang out, goof around, have a good time, forget about a work day, whatever, blow off some steam. But they can also, go a bit further. One of the slogans I always think of is one of the first games I ever worked on in video games was a game called Trials. It's that dirt biking game that came out to Xbox Arcade, and then, they later did Fusion and stuff. And they had this slogan that was always great, and it always stuck with me. And it was easy to pick up, difficult to master. And I think that that's where the core of that, can be fun, can be competitive comes from. A game that's, can be picked up by literally anyone, and you can kind of get the idea of what's going on. And then how far you go as far as mastery is really up to you and, the time you put in and if you're into that. But, again, like I said, easy to pick up, difficult to master. That's what it really comes down to,
Yeah. I mean, there was a stint where I was actually streaming the game for a little bit. I had some extra time, but recently I just have no time to do it whatsoever. And I found myself when I was streaming, I felt like I had to prove that I was good enough to play the game. And I think I kind of lost the fun factor of the game when I was playing online with, people that I met in private lobbies, public lobbies. And then when I stopped streaming and I started playing with friends again, I realized that I was having a little bit more fun with it.
Yeah.
So competitive gaming, it could be fun, but there's something special about just being stupid with your friends at the same time.
And, again, that's one of the great things about that game. The idea that you can have the same game accomplish both is, in my opinion, I think that's something special, and something rare,
Now, for Layers of Fear, I did play the first one on Xbox because I think like maybe it was 2 years ago or so. I believe it was on Game Pass. So I love horror games. I was like,
right,
like a cool horror game. Let me give it a shot or whatnot. Never heard of it before. I passed it on Game Pass. Absolutely fell in love with it. I was kind of creeped out throughout the game. I didn't know what was happening. I was walking around this house. I didn't know what was going to pop out at me, what was happening next. I haven't gotten to Layers of Fear 2 yet. For anybody who does love Layers of Fear 1, what's something they could expect from picking up Layers of Fear 2?
Well, one of the cool things about Layers of Fear 2 Again, Gunn is the publisher on it. Bloober Team was the creative and development team on it. So we got to kind of collaborate in a lot of ways, but not be too heavy-handed. Now, where Layers of Fear 1 focused on a fine art and a painter and those kinds of thematic elements, right? The creator in this one, the creative visionary in this one, is an actor, and so it's all basically it's one long love letter to horror films throughout the years. There's references in there to The Shining, to Fight Club, to old Georges Méliès films, and there's a lot in there for fans of film. Basically, because again, like I said, the creative outlet in the first was fine art. In this one, it's more about film. So now, basically, the thing with Layers of Fear has always been kind of a journey into madness. That was the case in the first one. That's also the case in the second one. But I think that in the second one, there's some really cool, really interesting and deep narrative elements to it that if you take, you can play the game, again, two ways to play a video game. You can play the game where you skim through the top level and you just kind of enjoy the game, and nothing wrong with that. Have a good time with it, do what you want, get a scare or two in there and call it a day. Or you can start to like kind of needle in further and get more of that story. And when you do, there's a really deep and really rich narrative element to Layers of Fear 2 that I think is really the strongest showing in it. And on top of that, it's got the voice of Tony Todd in it. So, that's awesome. The Candyman, you know what I mean? He plays a character named the Director that is kind of almost always in your ear talking to you. And it's a mood, man. Layers of Fear 2 is great.
You plan on seeing the new Candyman coming out?
Oh, I can't wait.
I think the trailer that they came out with, I think they did a remix to a Destiny's Child or Beyonce song, and they made it super creepy. I was like, it's kind of weird how they just turned Destiny Child into like a demonic, evil sound. Now, before I get into some questions from the fans, besides, personal games you developed with your team, what are some of like the top 3 games that you think you've ever played before?
Number one.
You can even say kid games because people got to stop sleeping on kid games, because I could pick up Crash Bandicoot or Spyro and have the time of my life.
Oh, I'm not a hater on the kid games. Sonic, I remember getting Sonic. This is a funny story. It's not one of my 3, but I was young. I got mono in I want to say it was 5th grade. And so I was going to be stuck inside for a long period of time. So my father got me Sonic, the first, on Sega Genesis. And, it was like one of those things where we were a working middle class family. So like for dad to show up with a video game for no good reason was like a rarity, But he brought me Sonic and I just cracked out on Sonic while I was like sick all summer, but Sonic's a great game.
At Sonic, I can never play that game. It's actually a really hard game.
It is a really hard game, but to this day, like just the tune of the intro music and all of that, and the sound of the rings when he hit them, the whole thing is just like a throwback to, like, it's all nostalgia for me.
Yeah.
But the best game I think I've ever played, in my opinion, and I say this often, is BioShock. Yeah, man, if I didn't have so many wires running in that camera, my living room is like a shrine to BioShock.
Really?
I love BioShock. The original BioShock, I just think was really well done, really well written. There's a really great story there. Really cool, like kind of play on an alternate reality and all of that. And the gameplay has elements of horror, elements of shooters, elements of, the typical like spell casting type of mage games and things like that. I just think that all around, pound for pound, BioShock is probably one of the best games ever made. It was the first time. Yeah. I was just going to say it was the first time in like the modern, like 360 forward era that I played a video game and I was like, this is art. This is 100% art. You know what I mean?
I've played the first one. And I've absolutely loved the first one.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten to the second or third one. I've been telling myself I need to play the second one because I heard the third one is an absolute like treasure. I heard that one is like amazing.
Yeah. BioShock Infinite is a great game too. And it's, BioShock 2 is done by a different team, but still pretty good. It stays underwater with Rapture and all that. BioShock Infinite takes to the clouds, and that's done by the original BioShock team. And I think that, you know, you can really tell it's, you know, the narrative elements, again, it's all there. But there's just no experience like that first BioShock, man. So.
Yeah. I think I mentioned Spyro, and now my wife is playing Spyro.
Nice.
So I want to get to some fan questions. And if anybody who submitted a question and I ask your question, and I kind of hate the question, I'm going to let you know I hate the question. And before I even let Matt ask the question, I'm going to pull you out. First off, little backstory. Before I even picked up Friday the 13th, right. My cousin who lives in Connecticut would always post YouTube clips of people playing the game. I think she would she would always post clips from H2 Delirious. Because I watched his videos when he played the game when I was trying to learn how to play. And that guy's just hilarious and how he does it and all that. So this comes from Kathy out in Connecticut. She said, "Hey, Matt, I'm a big fan of Friday the 13th, the game. However, are you interested, that's the key word, interested, not actually doing, interested in making a game based on another horror icon? If so, which horror icon would you choose?"
Well, this is a tough question to answer because I work at a place that makes horror games. And so I want to start my answer by saying this is in no way a gun interactive answer. This is a Matt answer. My favorite horror movie of all time is Return of the Living Dead. Okay. I'd love to make a Return of the Living Dead game. I don't even know what that would look like. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But I don't even know what it would look like. I just want my hands in that intellectual property. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, and that, again, huge disclaimer, is by no means a gun answer. That is just if you know Matt, that's the horror movie I love the most. You know what I mean? And so yeah, I'd love to do that.
Yeah. If I were to have to choose one, I don't know. See, again, I don't know how this would even come to life. I don't even think it would ever be possible. But for some reason, one of my favorite horror movies is Insidious.
Oh, yeah.
I love the thought of astral projection and all that stuff. My dad claims that he had an out-of-body experience before. Everyone says he's a bullshit artist. But he's like, "Son, you got to believe me."
You got to believe me, Mike. Wait, let's do like a 1-minute game pitch on Insidious.
All right, cool.
How about this? Ready? All right.
This is why you're in the industry, because you just come up with ideas. I love it.
This is off the top of my head. You have a game where, similar to Blackout Club, where you're investigating a neighborhood, you're trying to figure out what's going on. People are there, people are missing, whatever the case is, similar to the film. There are portals in the world that you can interact with that take you to the
actual plane.
Yeah. So basically, as you're moving throughout the world, you can track down the story, or whether it's multiplayer or single player, you're either tracking down story or you're tracking down the other players, and you have to like constantly hip and hop between the astral plane and the real world. So you have to run into these like kind of totem or relics even, or how about wait, here we go, mementos, right? So like Mike's hat. Mike loves his hat, and there's the hat on the dresser, and if you interact with it, you go into the astral plane, and then now you're following the footsteps of Mike. Then you find something else that's important to you, and that's how you can jump back to the real world, but you're not back in the same room you were. You're in a different room in a different part of town, and back and forth through there. And yeah,
it sounds like a badass.
There you go.
Kind of similar to like an Alan Wake type of thing.
Yeah. Boom, $1 million. Ship it. Ship it.
make it happen. Next one comes from at 2-Time Beast. He said, and all right, this is one of the things where I'm gonna have to, before I even let you say something, let me make a point and let me know what your thoughts on. He says, "What are the chances of team killing come back so trolls can't hold on to items against you in Friday the 13th?" 2-Time Beast. So you're dealing with an issue right off the bat. If you want team killing to come back so trolls can't hold items against you, what's going to stop the trolls from actually killing you in a game? So the question doesn't make any sense to me. So I think it's fair to say that team killing isn't going to come back whatsoever within the game.
No. And the reason for it is basically, like you said, Mike, it's a matter of the opportunity to try to to think about bringing team killing back to try to combat trolling is really, I get where the two-time beast is coming from, and I understand why that would seem to make sense, because then you have some act of retribution, but you're not the only one that has that power or authority in game. They do too. So then the troll just does a different thing.
See, one thing I learned from a streamer about trolls is if you have trolls in your lobby, find the keys, repair the car, and run them over.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, man, and some people are like, oh, hey, he ran me over with a car. That's cheating or teaming or the griefing or this, that. But in the next breath, they'll say, we need team killing back so that we can combat trolls. And, it gets tricky there, man. And honestly, in game development, these decisions are all made with the hope that you can kind of guide the community in the right direction on how to play, but ultimately you can't force anybody to play any kind of way. And anytime you try to, you end up restricting the people who are playing the right kind of way. So, you say, oh, we're going to add team killing back in, or we're going to do this or do that, or make this change or that change. And the goal is to kind of influence the people playing improperly, but it always has a negative impact on the people who are playing properly. So you constantly are balancing scales in that respect. And I'm not saying, hey, sympathy for the game dev, but I'm just saying that know that in those decisions, it's never made lightly, because it's never a 100% on one side or the other. There's always a give and take. There's always going to be a plus minus to all of those decisions. So, yeah.
And the next question, where is it? I can't even find it, but I did see it when I was looking at the list. And I hate the question because you guys have covered this multiple times in your Beyond streams, on socials, or on the forum, about updates to the game, and when are we getting Uber Jason, and can you make Savini Jason available? And what I hate about the question is because in the question they say, I know no new content is allowed to happen in the game, but is there any chance we can get Savini Jason or Uber Jason? No. It's a pretty simple answer.
A lot of people don't like the idea of Savini being backer only and being already closed off to the community. And I understand that. Like, no one likes to see a cool thing and be like, but you can't have it. He has it, you can't. Or she has it, you can't. I get that. That sucks. But when you're trying to reward people in a Kickstarter program for backing the game, especially backing the game early, that's essentially what they're there for. They're there early. They're making a commitment to something that they haven't played, haven't seen, haven't any of that. And the rewards that are to them, it would be kind of like a betrayal of trust to then give that away now, because those people that backed that game early, they backed it early. That was their reward for doing so. And it's kind of a betrayal of trust to make it available now. So Savini is never going to be widely available. And
you know what? Savini Jason, honestly, skill-wise, overrated. Roy all day.
Look, man, I love the look of Savini Jason.
He looks awesome.
I just had the same conversation on Reddit, though. Somebody was like, he is mechanically superior to every other Jason. I was like, hold on, wait a minute. Let's, easy, guys. Like, I know that he's cool looking, but he's not mechanically superior to every other Jason. He's great, but he has his negatives too. It's not like he's just overboard or anything like that. The one time I got trolled the hardest playing Friday was using Savini Jason.
Really?
Like 4 counselors lined up. I think 4 counselors lined up, and they just like stun chained me. But they had already had the cops called, right?
Oh, so they were just messing at this point.
Yeah, they were friends of mine. They already had the cops called, and I was trying to get to them right at the edge of the cops because I was like, oh, they're going to escape. I didn't realize that they were setting me up. Yeah. So they like stun chained me right as I led up to rage. So I didn't have rage yet. So they one stun after the other.
The rage update?
This was after it, but I didn't have rage yet. So they were just one after the, and then Jason gets rage as the 4th one stuns me. And I'm like, oh, okay, now it's on. And they all four of them just trot out to the police. And I was like, that's some bullshit, man. That's some garbage.
I always think when you're Jason,
yeah, Savini Jason,
the cops are there, and then 4 people are just waiting at the cops just to beat you up while they can, and then they're just going to go right into the cops. Tip for anybody:
they know they can just right out.
Yeah, don't ever grab anybody right by the cops, because if they have the balls to stay, they definitely have a pocket knife. So that's definitely that.
They definitely have a pocket knife, or their buddy's going to save them.
Yeah.
On the topic of Uber, though, I do want to note with Jason X, as far as that's concerned, you know, again, the statement on content's out there. I know those things are long and like annoying to read. I get that, but you know, Uber Jason 100% is content, and it's 100% content that we cannot at this time release. So the entire debate over would you, wouldn't you, how done is it, how done isn't it, is it complete, is it not complete, what is it, you know, all of those little finer arguments, I hate to sound dismissive of them, but they really are not even a part of the greater conversation, because it can't happen. Legally cannot happen. So
I mean, it's frustrating for me because I am a supporter of Gun and all that you guys do. And I know you guys haven't done Beyond the Stream in a while. But I would always check in with those because I was curious to see what was going on with updates, community, and all that. And to see people just go in there every single week and ask the same questions. And you have the patience of a god, because you never really let it get to you, the same question over and over again. Pretty much are very political with how you handle that situation.
I appreciate that. I try very hard. I'm not gonna lie. There are some days where I want to be like, "Damn it," you know. But
here's my TED Talk on Twitter.
But you know, here's the thing too. We'll craft up this like 2-page document in a statement that outlines every bit of the answer, and we'll post it, and someone will reply to it and say, when are we getting Jason X? And you're just like, you didn't even start reading. You didn't even, I spent so long on that statement and you didn't even read the first line, you know, but that's the nature of it, man. You know, I can't really hate on them. I come across a statement like that. I go, I don't want to read that whole thing either. You know, it's what it is.
I wish you could see my wife playing Spyro right now. Literally out that she can't beat a level.
Nice.
Anyway, Clumsy Cat said, Matt, thank you for all you and Gun do. I love horror games. Please tell me Layers of Fear 3 will be a thing in the near future.
Wow, I don't know, man. You know, honestly, the situation with Layers of Fear, number one, Layers of Fear 2 isn't even all that old yet. We only just broke the 1-year mark for Layers of Fear 2. As far as the Layers of Fear 3, again, because Gunn was the publisher, Bloober was the creative team, that's really ultimately a Bloober decision. You know, and then the rest of it works out from there, you know, whether or not Gunn would be involved. But one of the things that I always like to note about these types of comments and questions and such, I know it sucks that I can't be like, well, here's the day. We're going to get started right now. You know, I'd love to be the guy with that kind of news and to be able to share that kind of news right now. And so as much as I give a non-answer on things like that a lot of the times, and a lot of times I have to put them off, one thing that I did want to note is every single community member that ever says something like that to us is appreciated. We really do 100% appreciate that, because you might be, and even the guy who's asking for, you know, Jason X 4,000 times. I mean, look, you choose to spend your time playing one of our games. So I appreciate you, every single one of you. And so the fact that you would even be interested in a Layers of Fear 3, to me, is flattering, and we appreciate it, and we appreciate all the support. So
awesome. Last fan question is Jukin Steve. He says, Matt, love what you guys do. My passion is video games, and I want to get into the field for a future career. How did you start off, and do you have any advice?
Oh, I got a wonderful story of how I started off in games. First of all, I'm old, right? So like I'm a mummy fart old, all right? I'm an old man.
You have to look there in the game, even though I think it needs a little more green.
It's a little quarantine faded, but you know, so you know, I had a whole career before video games. I got out of high school. I went into construction. I worked as a carpenter and a cabinet maker. I made furniture and cabinets then, and I was doing that. I did that for close to 15 years. I always loved video games though. So, and I always loved content creation. A lot of the gadgets I'm using right here, I have just because I like amassing gadgets and messing with things. And so, I always created content, and I got noticed by a game brand called Ghost Recon for some of the content that I did. And they, started working with me on doing some guides and things for players. And, because of that, the people that reached out to me from the gaming company were community managers and community developers. I was like, hey man, so that thing you do at that gaming company, like, let me hear more about it. And I just interacted with them and kind of jived with them in a way that I started to learn a lot from them. An opportunity came up and I jumped on it, and I took basically the advice I would give if you were looking to get into community is a community manager wears a ton of different hats. You do a ton of different things, and you can practice all of that being a content creator, because you're creating assets in Photoshop, you're creating still images, you're creating video, you're creating audio tracks, podcasts, doing the audio work for your live stream, whatever the case is. You're promoting all of that and branding all of that, which is 100% relatable to community management. Basically, what a content creator does, they develop a community around their, content creation, their brand, whatever the case is. Then they manage that community, and they are also the representative of that community. So that's 3 different roles in community that, correlate really well to content creation. So my advice to anybody, again, I would only advise on the community side of things, because that's kind of what I've spent my time in the game industry in. So, my advice would be to basically take those things that you can do outside of games and start creating brands, work on them in the way that you would nurture a game and a game community. The people who show up to your live stream and hang out, the people who comment on your YouTube video, that's your community. Yeah. So now manage and develop and cultivate that in a way that you can then apply to the game company and, draw a straight line from, well, look, I don't have, 100%, on the job experience, but here's what I do, and here's what I can do for you. And it worked for me. So, I found my way in. I started on the little dirt biking game trials at Ubisoft. After a short time on that, I got put on Tom Clancy's The Division, the original one. And then from there, I was on Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege for a while. Then I got promoted again. Now, this is where getting in the door takes a lot of hard work and a little bit of luck. Keeping the job is all hard work, but after Rainbow Six Siege, which was after The Division, I got a job as a community management team lead, and I got to lead a team of community managers. We covered Assassin's Creed, we covered Rock Band, Far Cry, not Rock Band, I'm sorry, Rocksmith. Yeah, Assassin's Creed, Rocksmith, Far Cry, South Park, the South Park game we did, a lot of cool stuff there, man. It was a good time.
If you love South Park, that game is
oh yeah,
something else. Let me just
absolutely, man. But, so long story short, to take an already long story and make it a little shorter, try to do the things that you would do as a community manager outside of community management. And then make sure that when you're applying, you're dotting the I for them. You're drawing the line from one to the next and saying, this is what I've done that correlates directly to community management. And, I think I'd be a good candidate. And, another wise way to look is indie. I happen to start at Ubisoft, which is AAA, but indie is a good way to get in, because a lot of those folks, they're used to having to kind of be a little gutsy and be a little scrappy and do it themselves, so
it's
that
sort
DIY
of a way to build up your reputation, your resume.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you in community development, you're sometimes pretty much the face that's dealing with people who love your games, and you're the one answering the questions.
You can say it, the face that gets punched too when they're not happy.
Yeah. And, you take your bumps and bruises, but you take it like a champ. And
that's right.
I think it comes with the territory. And I think being in the situation you are, you have to have thick skin, just like in the radio industry. If you want to be on air, and be a radio personality, you have to have thick skin. If you can't take criticism, then maybe the industry is not for you.
Right.
So yeah, shout out to you on that.
Thanks, man.
Cool. So Juke and Steve, go get your job.
Yeah. And Juke and Steve, if you're watching this, Juke and Steve, hit me up on Twitter, man. I'm a pretty approachable person. My DMs are also open. You have anything that you want to know, man, just hit me up and let me know. I'll answer everything I can. I'm coming up on 5 years on this industry, so I don't have all the answers, but I know what's worked so far. And if I can help at all, I would love to. So
I will say you're like one of the few people I think who actually check their DMs and see what people are asking. And like me reaching out to you was super easy. You got back to me within like maybe 15 minutes or so. So I definitely appreciate that. So
I actually had to ignore people for this show because I saw their questions in my mentions and I was like fighting not to answer them. I want to just be like, you know what I mean? I was like, I should save that for the show. I think that's the whole point of the questions coming into the show. So I had to, like, all day today, I was checking Twitter and being like, no, I can't answer that guy yet. That Mike's tagged in that. I got to leave that for the show.
I did take a few of them off of Twitter. Some of them are from the submission page on the website. So if I didn't get to any of the ones on Twitter, definitely feel free.
I will answer them when the show's over. Yeah.
Lastly, we cover video games, Gun, Friday, Layers of Fear. If people love horror, I know, Matt, you love the horror genre. And Radio Creeps is your little baby that you're working on right now. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Well, honestly, I wanted to create some kind of content in the quarantine. I had a bunch of time inside and I was like, let me do something. I picked up a little bit of photography kind of hobby style, taking pictures of my kid, that kind of stuff. But I was like, I want to create something that I can share more readily on a schedule and get into, like, basically all the things I just said about becoming a community manager. I wanted to do those again, just for the fun of it, just because I enjoy it, So I was like, well, I don't want to live stream games. Listen, live streaming for a brand versus live streaming for yourself are two very different things. Yeah. You can treat your personal live stream like a brand stream, but there is nothing like streaming for a brand. You've been in the Beyond streams, the chat there and having to maintain the brand image and make sure that you're taking care of things. And the way you go about it is very different. And I've spent my entire career in community, all 5 years of it. I've done thousands of hours of brand streaming. And so I was like, I don't really want to do live streaming. My game time now is kind of fewer and further between. And it's something I do on the low key, I don't want to do that. So I was trying to think of ways I could do it. And I was like, well, screw it. I'm going to do a podcast. I love just talking about horror. I love just hanging out with other horror fans and just chatting about horror. So, we me and my wife were like, well, what are we going to do? We're going to do horror talk. And do we need to outline it? Do we need to, like, be rigid or anything like that? And I kind of felt like the best way to handle it, because it was something to do for fun during quarantine, was let's just sit down with other horror fans and talk. No notes, no crazy deep dives on anything. Let's just hang out and talk about horror and enjoy ourselves. So I figured Radio for the Creeps. Let's do it. We all want to give you the creeps. And so Radio for the Creeps, and not creeps like, but, give you the creeps. And so next thing you know, we had the whole show set up. So
what are you guys going to be talking about? Like, any upcoming movies, horror movies coming out? I know with the pandemic and everything, there's not a lot of, with Halloween around the corner, going to be a lot of, like, horror parades or festivals. What are you guys touching base on?
Sadly, it's a rough year for horror, man. It really is. It's a terrible year for horror because, we're coming up into the spooky months. Normally, my dance card's full, man. Normally, I'm like home for a week, gone for a week, home for a week, gone for a week. Between the gaming conventions that are still winding down and the horror conventions that are picking up, I'm pretty busy usually this time of year. This year, I'm not even going to get to take my daughter trick-or-treating, for crying out loud. Never mind flying around the country, but we cover, like, basically the way I try to look at it is if there's something, we've been doing a few episodes of a thing I really appreciate called Horror at Home. And there's episodes on Radio for the Creeps about horror at home. It's all newer horror movies that you can stream and just a quick look at them. Keep the show short. We're about 45 minutes to an hour each show. So I really appreciate the horror at home ones because I think that that's cool. You know, being able to find some new horror that's late breaking, that's already available, you know, go straight to streaming in this whole situation with the pandemic. But I really like the horror at home series. I also like our guest series. I try to cherry pick some really interesting guests. We had Andrea from Rue Morgue, the magazine Rue Morgue. She's the editor for Rue Morgue. We had her on and we just talked about horror as a lifestyle outside of the theater. I had my friend Kate Sanchez on. Kate is from the But Why Though PC community there. You know, she has a podcast and a website dedicated to like geek and gaming and all of that. Big horror fan. We got to talk about gender and horror and like, you know, the final girl tropes and things like that. It's really just a variety show. It's fun. I can't tell you what's going to be on the next episode because I don't know yet. I have a notebook, but yeah, that's right. I have a notebook. I think I filled out one page in it. You know what I'm saying? And over the course of 12 episodes, I've done one page of notes. So we just hang out and wing it. You know? Since
you're a big horror fan and a slasher fan, what are your thoughts on a brand new Scream movie coming out? Are you about it? Or are you like, it's run its course?
I don't know, man. You know, I have weird feelings about Scream. I do. Like the first Scream, okay, pretty good. You know, first Scream was pretty good. I thought it was pretty cool the way they turned a lot of those kind of stale tropes on their head and kind of flipped a lot of things like that. I thought it was really neat, but I was a little bit, I don't know. I'm a little bit too old for the Scream crowd. You know what I'm saying? Like
it's very poppy now. It's not really.
Even when it came out, it was kind of like I was of the 80s horror kind of field. So like you got Ghostface with that goofy mask and I don't know the things that other people find endearing about it. I just kind of was like, I could take or leave. But I think it's a cool. Again, Scream 1 is interesting. I've been told I have to rewatch Scream 4. Supposedly Scream 4 makes a lot of sense in modern times. So
me and my wife did like a Scream marathon not too long ago. And I know we've seen them all. I just can't remember Scream 4 to save my life for some reason.
I think 4 is the one where, and this is like a huge spoiler, but I mean, you know, if you didn't see Scream 4
cover your ears.
Yeah, right. If you didn't see Scream 4 yet, cover your ears. And so I think 4 is the one where the young lady is the killer and she's doing it for the popularity.
Yes, that is correct.
Right?
I mean,
so
no spoilers here.
Yeah. So, no, it totally wasn't her. But, you know, look, man, Scream 5 could be interesting. I don't know. I think it's one that I'm going to tentatively like wait and see. But I mean, of course, I'll see it when it comes.
And one final thought on a horror movie that needs to be banished from the records is probably the latest Child's Play.
Oh my God, yeah.
I don't know if you've seen that one.
Here's a strong opinion. I'm not really a big fan of any of the Child's Play movies.
Really?
Like,
see, when I was a kid, I really enjoyed Chucky. Thought of Chucky. And again, me and my wife just watched, I think, the first 2 the other day. And she's not a big fan of horror. She doesn't like the thought of possession and all that stuff. Right. And then we were watching it and she was like, why did I think this was so scary? I thought this was something that it wasn't. I was just like, I thought it was more creepier than it actually is too. Because this is the first time I'm watching it in maybe 20 years. Right. It's really not anything special in my opinion. Some people love it. I don't think Child's Play is, especially.
Well, here's the thing.
Terrible.
Here's something I always say about horror, right? I've said it actually on Beyond. I can find the good in any horror movie. I can. Mm-hmm. And you know, I have another segment on Radio for the Creeps. It's me and my wife, and we sit down and we talk about a topic that we know we don't agree on. And we call it date night. And basically it's us arguing each other's side, you know what I mean? Like, for an hour. And one of the things I always find myself saying about this is when it comes to these opinions, I'm never the type of person to say your opinion is invalid. I don't have to agree with it, but you know, I'm not going to shit on any. there I go again, cursing.
Right.
I'm not going to be terrible to anybody who has a differing opinion. That's the foundation for a good discussion. I also can find the merits in it. And with Child's Play, yeah, it was never my kind of movie. I was never a big fan of it, but I will say it's number one, it was really clever the way they used the current climate of like parents scrambling to get their kids Cabbage Patch dolls and having to get them the hottest new toy and the pressure that puts on a family and the little monsters that the kids turn into when they don't get the toy. And, you know, so I thought there was a lot of really interesting stuff there with Child's Play, the original. And so I respect all of that. It's just, to me, I was always like, come on, man. Like,
just kick the doll.
yeah, the doll's 2 feet tall. Just kick it. You know what I mean? Like, kick it, burn it, done, over with. God, I'm never buying you another one of those toys. Like,
I don't know why. Maybe it's because I'm Irish. I don't know what, but if they could reboot the Leprechaun, I'd be a very happy person.
I've been talking to some big Leprechaun fans lately. I don't know. I didn't know there was such a like real subsect of horror fans. Yeah. You're not alone, dude. There's like there's a pocket of you. You should start like a Facebook group.
A fan of Leprechaun in the Hood forum. Just hang out with everybody who could appreciate great cinema.
Right. That's right. Just because you can't appreciate the fine art that is Leprechaun.
So, Matt, how can people who are into horror and want to check out the podcast, how can they find you? Where can they download links and all that other stuff?
Well, honestly, I took the route of let me make sure it's on every single platform that will let me put it on their platform. So it's everywhere. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google. You can also follow @RadioCreeps on Twitter. I run social media channels as part of my every day. So I didn't want to go full in. There's no like Facebook, Instagram, subreddit, all of that. Yeah. We only got a Twitter for the podcast, but @RadioCreeps on Twitter, you can follow us there. We regularly share shows from us and from other cool horror podcasts because again, it's just about having a good time with it. So
cool. Well, Matt, I appreciate everything you guys do at Gun, keeping the community happy with Friday, layers, anything that you guys are working on in the future. Hopefully, within the next few months, we might get some news on a nice, cool game coming our way. I don't know. And I know you can't talk about it. But I'll just cross my fingers and hope that something is on the way.
One thing that I can say is Gun is sticking with horror, and Gun's not going out of business anytime soon.
This makes me happy.
Read between them lines and... Right.
We need to make horror games great again.
Yeah, there you go.
Because there's nothing better than playing a game and being a grown-ass man and feeling like you might shit yourself.
Those experiences, man, those are not easy to come by. And as long as Gun can keep making them happen, we're gonna. So
we'll definitely look out for that. If people do want to keep up with Gun, everything you guys are doing, if you want to shout out those social channels real quick, that'd be cool too.
Absolutely. You can find Gun mostly at Fear the Gun anywhere. Yeah. We're Fear the Gun on Facebook, Fear the Gun on Instagram, and Fear the Gun on Twitter. We're going through a bit of a name change, so keep an eye on those socials, and we'll inform you of the name change as you mentioned in early in the show, because some of the things like our Twitch channel and stuff will probably face the name change before we go back to going live with Beyond and Tales. But that being said, we will be back on Twitch with Beyond and Tales when it makes more sense and when quarantine's over and we're back in like the full studio. So
yeah, I don't know if I asked that question. Somebody did say on Twitter when if you guys were going to bring it back beyond the stream because they loved hanging out with you guys and they were diehard fans. Yeah. And all that stuff. So
we definitely are. We took a hiatus there when we had we had work that was making it where we kind of weren't really in the best spot to take the time out each week and pull Rob, our producer, down and Mel and Raj down and everything else to make it happen. We were going through some shifts in the office and such. So we took a little bit of a break. Then COVID sent everybody home. Yeah. So it's not that we can't stream from home. It's just we want to bring it back when it makes the most sense. But it's by no means over.
You're going to do it. If you're going to do it, you're going to do it right, the way you have been doing it. So there's no reason to half-ass it. So
that's right.
Awesome stuff, Matt. So I'll probably reach out to you if you ever want to talk about anything, jump on the show again. You can definitely reach out if you're trying to promote, a game. I want to start going big on Nerd Talk on magic983.com. So if there's anything you're looking for an extra push, totally reach out and we'll get something going, man.
Sounds good. Awesome. Good stuff.
Appreciate the time, bro.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Definitely. Thanks, man.